Sometimes life really is stranger than fiction. Take, for example, October the 19th of 2025 AD, when two thieves broke into the Louvre, stole the crown jewels of France, escaped via a ladder set against the outside of the building, hopped into a moving car, and absconded with millions of dollars worth of loot in broad daylight. Right off the bat, the world was alight with theories as to what could have happened and who the culprits could be. One of the most popular options was that it was a promotional stunt for a new movie set to come out just under a month later on November 14th. Now You See Me, Now You Don't. It had been almost a decade since the last film in the franchise came out, so there's no denying that the producers would have to do some serious marketing to get people excited. They have, however, denied all involvement. All I'm gonna say is that if they did do it, it's an outstanding move. Assuming, of course, that the museum is in on the joke. Whatever the case, it actually did drum up serious buzz about the movie's release. Jesse Eisenberg even went on Jimmy Fallon to denounce any claims that it was tied to the movie, which only made people more fascinated. This is how the franchise came to my attention. I watched the first movie, then the second, and fell in love with both. The flashy action infused with sleight of hand, the plans executed to perfection, the charismatic main cast, and the smart dialogue added up to the closest thing we'll probably ever get to real magic. I started counting down the days until the release of the third one, and when the time finally came, I raced straight to my local theater with decently high expectations for the first time since The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. The question on my mind at the time, and I'm sure is on yours now, is does it hold up? Well, that's what I'm here to answer. Listen closely, because the more you think you hear, the easier it'll be for me to convince you that I know what I'm doing and I'm not just some dude masquerading as a critic. Given that it's brand new, I'm not going to be able to walk you through the entire thing nor use substantial footage without getting struck with a copyright claim. Hence the short loop. What I can do is give you the basic setup. We open on the Four Horsemen making their first appearance in a decade to expose a slimy business person, as is their fashion. However, it turns out that it was an illusion all along, and the operation was really done by three up-and-comers and tight-knit friends named Bosco, June, and Charlie. Like the real horsemen, each has a particular magic-related strength that allows them to pull off the tricks. They scarcely arrive at their hideout after the show before encountering none other than J. Daniel Atlas, one of the real horsemen. He informs them that a secret society of magicians called the Eye of Horus wants the newbies to assist Atlas with some unnamed operation. It takes some convincing, why your guess is as good as mine, but they do agree to help. As they get started, the remainder of the horsemen reveal themselves one by one until the entire cast is reunited and agrees to pitch in for the effort. The Eye sends them to a French castle with a history of magic where they learn that their mission is to expose a diamond company's corrupt CEO for doing business with the world's worst criminals. It looks to be their toughest gig yet, made all the more difficult by additional complications. For one thing, the original four now have challenge dynamics because of a series of unfortunate events unfolding sometime between the second and third movies. The new generation has skill, but needs to polish it, and they're constantly in competition with the old guard. Can our magicians overcome these struggles and the enemies in their path, or will this be the job that finally does them in? That's about all I can say for now. So, how did it stack up? Let's start with the positives and work down from there. The original cast hasn't missed a beat in 10 years, 13 in Isla Fisher's case. Woody Harrelson is especially at home in the role of Merritt McKinney. He and Jesse Eisenberg have also collaborated on the Zombieland movies, so they've basically got their own dynamic down pat, and it's a joy to watch. I get the feeling that all four were actually happy to be involved because they brought real energy to the project, employing good chemistry with one another as well as with the newer faces in the cast. Speaking of which, the younger actors were also pretty solid. This generation is governed by apathy, which results in some truly horrendous stuff. So it's a breath of fresh air to find members of the new school who are not only competent at their craft, but know what they've got. This being a Now You See Me film, there's plenty of high-octane razzle-dazzle action that's eye-catching and fun to watch. The characters have varied styles of fighting that are in line with their skill sets and what we know about them as people. They tag team in different combinations, which makes for some dynamic shots and tricks. Props to the choreographers. The movie does a good job of keeping things moving at a fast clip without losing you along the way or throwing too much information at you. I mean, of course there are places I would have cut a few lines, but it's my job to be nitpicky. General audiences should be fine. Perfect, however, it is not. Lula is still super annoying, and Morgan Freeman could have been cut entirely, and nothing in the plot would have changed. The dialogue is bogged down by the inescapable modern practice of spelling everything out for you like they don't trust you to comprehend it beyond a first grade level, something that is painfully different from the first one and even the second to an extent. I'm not sure whose idea it was to dedicate an entire sequence to Bosco doing his best imitation of a NASCAR driver under the influence, but it's a little much for my taste. All of this is just stalling, however, because I'm here to talk about the writing. It's pretty good, actually. It's not exactly Jurassic Park, but it is thoroughly engaging. Part of the fun of these movies is that they're well crafted enough to enjoy without being so convoluted that they lose large portions of an audience, and they kept that pattern going here. My main concern was that the OGs would be portrayed as stodgy old fools who needed to be shown by the newer generation how to survive in today's world. I'm pleased to report that there is a refreshing lack of this crap. Matter of fact, there's a scene where they're comparing magic skills, and the original stars outclass their younger counterparts, and the kids regularly attribute everything they've learned to studying those who came before, including the horsemen themselves. The writers have also pulled a magic trick of their own and added a layer of rustiness to the old crew without making them totally incompetent. There are places where they have to be helped out by the newcomers, but they're not often enough to become obtrusive, and they are not turned into teachable moments. Basically, it respected the first two. That said, it did feel a little disjointed at times. Mark Ruffalo was largely written out of it, maybe because he had a pre-existing contract, or maybe he didn't want to come back. Maybe the writers just didn't want to fit in another character. Let's be clear, the cast is definitely overcrowded. A core principle of heist movies is that each member of the crew needs to have a specific role. When you have multiple characters with similar abilities, they become redundant, and you have to either figure out something for them to do or leave them standing in the corner. Several times, the writers went with the latter option. Minor things got lost in the quick pace, such as the arc of having the originals regain their love of the game being somewhat rushed. I chalk this up to writers spreading themselves too thin across too many things rather than dialing in on a few specifics. There's a steady flow of meta internet-related humor that really didn't work for me because Hollywood hasn't quite figured out how to balance it yet. None of this did too much damage to my enjoyment of the film, but you do notice it. So what's the final judgment? A positive one. All the hallmarks of a Now You See Me movie are present, from miniature mysteries and magical Illuminati to vigilantism and a massive third act reveal. And if you feel I just gave you a massive spoiler with that last bit, remember that it's essentially the selling point of the entire franchise. And hey, it's not like I told you that it was who did or that. Wait, what just happened in my video? Now You See Me, Now You Don't promises action and magic, which is just what it delivers. It's good fun, and a fair choice to spend your money on if you're in the mood to see something in the theater. Points of all this being, I can't be the only one disappointed that this guy isn't the detective assigned to the Louvre case, right? Right?